Have you ever stopped to ask yourself what success really means to you? Not what society says, not what your parents told you, not what your friends expect, but what you, deep down, believe success actually is. Most of us never ask that question. We just follow the script, go to school, get a degree, land a job, make more money, buy a house, build a family, retire early if we're lucky. And somewhere in that long checklist, we hope to find happiness, peace, meaning. But here's the problem. What if that entire idea of success is an illusion? Jiddu Krishnamurti once said, "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." And that hits hard when you think about the way we chase success today. We're so busy adjusting ourselves to fit into a broken system, we never stop to ask, what are we even succeeding at? We're praised for being productive, but we're exhausted. We're admired for being ambitious, but we're anxious. We're envied for our lifestyles, but we feel empty. Success, as it's commonly defined, is built on comparison. It only exists if someone else has less. Less money, less recognition, less status. Which means we're constantly looking outward, competing, comparing, measuring. Our self-worth becomes dependent on how well we perform in a game we never chose to play. Krishnamurti challenges that entire structure. He didn't just question how we live. He questioned why we live the way we do. He believed that real freedom begins when we stop conforming, when we stop blindly chasing what the world tells us to want. Think about how early this conditioning begins. A child gets an A on a test and is told, "Good job, you're smart." Another gets a C and is told, "Try harder." Immediately, we're taught that worth comes from achievement, that praise comes from meeting a standard, that love is conditional. So we grow up chasing approval. Not because we're greedy, but because we're afraid. Afraid of failing, afraid of being left behind, afraid of being less than. That fear drives everything, our careers, our relationships, even the way we talk to ourselves. But is that really living? Krishnamurti said, "To understand what is, you must observe it without the distortion of your desires." That means we need to look at success not through the lens of what we want it to be, but what it actually is. Strip away the Instagram filters, the job titles, the applause. What are we really chasing? Most of the time, it's not success, it's security. We want to feel safe, in control, respected. But true security doesn't come from status, it comes from understanding yourself. And you can't do that when you're constantly performing for others. Let me ask you this. If no one ever applauded your work, would you still do it? If no one ever noticed your lifestyle, would you still choose it? If there was no one to compare yourself to, would you still be chasing the same things? Most people never stop to ask those questions because it's uncomfortable. It shakes the ground we've been standing on for years. But discomfort is often the beginning of truth. And here's the truth. Success, as the world defines it, will never satisfy you. It's a moving target. Today you want a promotion. Tomorrow it's a bigger house. Then it's early retirement. Then it's more followers, more recognition, more something. Always more. But more is a trap. The more you chase, the more you fear losing what you've gained. That's not freedom. That's a prison built on gold. Krishnamurti believed that real success, if we even want to use that word, is not in achieving something. It's in understanding, in seeing clearly, in living fully present, without fear, without comparison, without the endless noise of what's next. And that kind of life doesn't require approval. It doesn't look impressive on paper. It won't go viral, but it will be real, and it will be yours. So maybe the question isn't, are you successful? Maybe the real question is, are you free? Because if you're chasing someone else's definition of success, if you're stuck in the cycle of proving, achieving, and comparing, then maybe, just maybe, you're trapped in the illusion. And maybe it's time to wake up. Let's talk about what happens when we begin to wake up from that illusion. At first, it can feel like loss, a kind of quiet grief. When you stop chasing the version of success the world gave you, it's like stepping off a moving train. Everyone else is still rushing forward, busy, driven, achieving, and you're just still. You begin to question everything, your job, your goals, even your relationships. And that can feel terrifying. But this is where something truly radical begins. This is where freedom starts. Krishnamurti emphasized that freedom is not the end result of effort. It's the absence of psychological conditioning. It's not something you achieve after 30 years of striving. It's what's available to you the moment you stop conforming to what is false. So what does this freedom look like in everyday life? It means being able to work without needing to prove your worth. It means creating, not for applause, but because something inside you wants to express itself. It means living in the present without dragging the past behind you or chasing a future you think will save you. This kind of life doesn't require a title, a platform, or a six-figure salary. It requires attention. Deep, honest attention to your own mind, your fears, your conditioning, your habits, the way you move through the world when no one's watching. Krishnamurti called this choiceless awareness, a way of observing life without judgment, without preference, without distortion. You don't try to fix or escape what you see. You just see, clearly, fully. And in that seeing, something shifts. You start to recognize the subtle lies you've been living. You start to see how much of your identity was built on fear. And you begin, slowly, to let go. Let go of needing to be someone. Let go of trying to become something. Let go of chasing a future that was never guaranteed, because real success, if we dare to redefine it, is not about becoming more. It's about being whole right now. That wholeness can't be given to you. It's not in a book. It's not in a TED Talk. It's not in a guru's words. It has to be discovered by you, in your own life, in your own way. And that discovery begins when you stop running, when you stop looking outside for answers, and begin to look inward with clarity and courage. So next time you feel the pressure to succeed, pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, who told me this is what success looks like? What am I really chasing? And what would it mean to stop? Not to give up, not to be lazy, but to question, deeply, fearlessly. Because until you do, you're not living freely. You're just playing a role, one that was handed to you long before you could even say no. And here's the wild part. Once you start to let go of that role, you won't become less. You'll become you, not the version trying to fit in, not the one chasing approval. Just you. That's the space where truth lives. That's where real creativity is born. That's where peace begins. Not on a beach in Bali, but in the quiet corners of your mind when you no longer need to be anything other than what you are. So, are you trapped in the illusion of success? Or are you ready to break free? The choice, if you're paying attention, was always yours. But here's something we don't often talk about. What happens after the illusion breaks? See, waking up from false success doesn't mean you suddenly have all the answers. In fact, it usually means you have more questions, more silence, more space. And for many people, that space can feel deeply uncomfortable. We're so used to having direction, even if it's the wrong one. So when that direction disappears, when we stop chasing titles or timelines, there's this strange feeling of being untethered. No destination, no race, just life. And that's where the real work begins. Not the kind of work the world rewards, but the quiet inner work of seeing. Krishnamurti said, "Truth is a pathless land." And that's not just a poetic phrase, it's a radical idea. It means that there is no roadmap, no system, no 10-step plan to live a meaningful life. Because the moment you follow a system, you've already left yourself behind. You can't follow someone else's truth and expect to find your own. So what does that mean for you, sitting here now? It means you'll have to be still. You'll have to observe. Not with judgment, but with sincerity. You'll have to look at your desires, your fears, your ambitions, not to shame them, but to understand them. Why do I want this promotion? Why do I crave their approval? Why do I feel behind? These aren't questions to fix. They're questions to sit with, to live with. Because in the act of observing without judgment, you begin to see the roots of your conditioning. And when you see clearly, change happens naturally, effortlessly, without force. But don't expect the world to applaud that kind of change. Most people will still measure you by what you do, not who you are. That's okay. Let them. Because when you no longer measure yourself by the world's standards, you start to experience a different kind of success, one that can't be posted online or translated into numbers. It shows up in how you listen, in how present you are with someone who's hurting, in how little you need to prove, in how deeply you feel without turning away. This is not the success of accumulation, it's the success of awareness, and it's rare, because it requires courage. Not the courage to climb higher, but the courage to step off the ladder entirely, to stand still in a world that's always rushing, to say, I don't need to win your game, I choose to live outside of it. And in that stillness, something extraordinary begins to emerge, a life that is no longer driven by fear or comparison, but by presence, clarity, and truth. A life where success is not defined by others, but discovered within. Not through effort, not through becoming, but through deep understanding. And in that understanding, you realize you were never meant to chase success. You were meant to be free. So stop running, start seeing, and let that seeing transform your life. Quietly, radically, completely. Because the moment you stop seeking success is the moment you finally find yourself.